the Baikonur Cosmodrome. It's from here that humans first dared to escape into the heavens. It's from here that a new flight crew will add to the history of this desert spaceport. From Tennessee, Butch Wilmore has logged more than 259 hours in space. The Navy captain was a flight test instructor and has over 600 carrier landings. Butch will be a flight engineer on Expedition 41 and command Expedition 42. Alexander Samokutyaev will also return to the station. The veteran has flown 164 days in orbit and has performed a spacewalk. Alex retired as a colonel from the Russian Air Force and performed 250 parachute jumps. Elena Serova will become the first female Russian cosmonaut to live and work on the International Space Station. Prior to her selection as a cosmonaut, Elena worked as an engineer for RSC Energia and in the Mission Control Center in Moscow. With the launch of Expedition 41-42, Butch, Alex, and Elena will add the next chapter to the history of Baikonur.
Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us here at the Johnson Space Center. We're here with the crew, the next crew headed to the International Space Station. Thank you all for joining us. We have NASA astronaut Butch Wilmore, who's going to serve as the flight engineer for Expedition 41 and then transition to commander for Expedition 42. Alexander, who will be the commander for the Soyuz spacecraft, and Elena Serova, who will be the first Russian female cosmonaut on the board of the International Space Station. So thanks again for joining us. I know we've got a full house and a lot of special guests here. So you're about 2 months out. Launch is planned for September 25th,
correct,
just after 3 p.m. Central Time. You're going to be departing to go to Russia in about a month.
Right.
So once you go there, I know there's still a lot of final preparations, including your final exams. We don't hear a whole lot about that. Why don't you start by telling us what that's like when you get over there for that final phase?
Yeah, we arrive in Russia. Actually, Sasha and Elena will already be there. I get there mid-August. And we go through several preparatory classes, review of a lot of different systems on the space station, the Russian segment specifically. Sasha and Elena have been here for 3 weeks at Johnson Space Center, so we've been going through a lot of reviews for the U.S. segment. So we'll get the Russian segment review there. We'll do a whole lot of work in the Soyuz simulator, prepping for those exams you mentioned. And I think, myself included, when I, years ago, you hear about the Russian exams, I thought they were, maybe sitting at a table taking a test, and it's not exactly like that. It's nothing like that. The exams actually entail doing your job in the Russian segment. So they'll give us a day in the life type of simulation, and we'll go through and we'll do all of these different various tasks in the Russian segment. And they usually conclude with 1, sometimes 2 emergency scenarios that we're all trained to do. And we'll go through those, and then we'll be graded on how we performed. Same thing in the Soyuz. The Soyuz is a full day. The exam is a full day. So you start off, and you saw the picture there when we started in our Russian spacesuits called a scaphandra. And we start off in that. We do a preparatory to launch, all the way up through launch, all the way up to a rendezvous phase. And then they actually let us get, that's about 4 hours. So we actually finally take off the scaphandra. We do a rendezvous phase up to docking in our just flight suits. And then we put the scaphandra back on, and we simulate leaving the station, doing the deorbit burn, the reentry, and all the way down to touchdown. And that is a full 10 to 12 hour day. And that, again, is different specific tasks are graded on that, and hopefully we had to get a passing grade and we move on from there. So that's really what exam means. It's actually doing what we'll be doing really as we launch, when we get back, and of course while we're on station.
Gotcha. So it definitely is a big milestone, though, to get past.
It's a big milestone.
And after that's done, then you can really breathe a sigh of relief and coast in and get ready for launch. So.
Well, I don't know about coast, but yeah, get ready for launch, exactly.
Gotcha. So speaking of launch, and then when you get underway on the mission, tell us a little bit about what's in store for your increment.
Well, our increment, like we sit here right now, we're prepping like we said, but also on orbit right now, Swanee and Reed and Alex, the crew up there, just grappled Cygnus and brought it on board. It's attached to the station. Just before we started, I saw some videos. They're taking down all the different apparatus that helps to put it on the station. So they're taking all that stuff apart, and it won't be long they'll be opening the hatch. So we'll take the opportunity to throw out a job well done to the crew up on orbit for that. And we will be doing similar stuff. We'll have several visiting vehicles that'll come up, bringing experiments, bringing food, bringing clothes, bringing all, air, water, those type of things. So we'll have several of those vehicles. We get I think 2, maybe 3 SpaceXs. We get another Cygnus shows up. ATV will be there when we arrive if all goes as planned, and it will depart, almost towards the end of our mission. So we've got a lot of that vehicle traffic as well. Sasha is scheduled for a what we call EVA, extravehicular activity, or spacewalk. He's scheduled for that in the October time frame. And then Terry Virts and I are also scheduled for a couple of spacewalks, January, February. So we're excited about that opportunity as well, if it all happens and it all comes to fruition. So big picture, that's kind of what our mission, what we're doing.
Going to hit the ground running.
Yeah,
Lots
exactly.
planned. Okay, well, let's turn it over here. We've got some media here in the audience, so we'll start with them with some questions. If you can just raise your hand, state your name and affiliation. We'll start over on this side. Gina.
Gina Sinceri, ABC News. So how tight does that fit in the Soyuz during your tests compared to being in a fighter jet? Is it similar? I mean, it looks pretty cramped in there.
I've been in many fighter jets in my career, and it's pretty tight. But you've got a little bit elbow room, so you've got open maps and that type of stuff. But in the Soyuz, it's leave it a little bit tighter. When we sat down, it's strange for me to sit on this side of Sasha because I'm a right-seater in the Soyuz. I'm usually over there, and Elena's sitting on the left side. But we're so close, I can reach over and I can touch Elena on the other side of the Soyuz. So it is a tight, snug fit. But the Soyuz is a very robust vehicle that is designed for, obviously, launch, on-orbit operations, and entry. And because of the smallness of it, if you know anything about how you build aircraft or spacecraft, if you can make it smaller, you can make your propulsion even less weight going to orbit. So the Russians were very wise in putting this orbital module on the top that we call it, will give us an extra volume that we have while we're on orbit. But the capsule, the part that returns back to Earth with the thermal protective valve, is very small and very tiny, which is a very, very smart and wise design. Yeah.
All right, next question, Mark.
Mark Carell for Aviation Week, and this is for Captain Wilmore as well. Could you talk a little bit about the activities you envision for the spacewalks that you'll do with Terry Virts? Is any of this related to the docking module reconfiguration or other improvements or modifications to the station?
Yeah, it is actually. As you know, we have commercial crew vehicles that are under design right now, and those vehicles are planned to dock to the station. And right now, the only docking apparatus we have are Soyuz and the space shuttle apparatus. So we need to change the the shuttle apparatus. We need to put an adapter on the end of that to allow these new vehicles to dock. So eventually those integrated docking adapters, those IDAs, will be installed. But before you even get those up there, we have to have power run to those adapters. So Terry and I, they kind of call us the cable guys, because we're going to route cables from the power source at the base of the station, if you will, and take it all the way out to where these docking adapters will eventually be installed. So we'll route the cables, we'll strap them down, we'll undo some other cables that are there that are no longer needed, and plug these newer cables into those spots and prepare for the future, when those docking adapters arrive. So eventually we'll get those commercial crew vehicles docking. Yeah, just a couple of years down the road.
Okay, so we are taking questions via Twitter and social media channels, so we want to encourage our viewers to use the hashtag AskNASA, and we're going to switch over to Amiko, I think, who's been tracking some of those questions for us.
We have quite a few coming in now. One of the questions comes to us on Twitter, and the question is, what experiments will you be doing aboard the ISS?
I don't want to hog all the questions, so we can...
You can open it up to any. You want to talk about some of the science that's planned?
Например, я могу ответить. Ну, например, у нас есть такие эксперименты, как медико-биологической направленности. Один из них является биориском. В общем-то, очень интересный эксперимент. Он заключается в том, что мы исследуем тестовые сборы, собирая различные образцы биологические, имеется в виду бактерии и грибы, которые являются нормальной средой обитания на конструкционных материалах станции, и исследуется их устойчивость к различным факторам космического полета.
We have several experiments. Among them, there are a few medical and biological experiments. For example, take BioRisk. We take samples of fungi and bacteria that can be found in the environment on the station's structure, and we analyze it later.
Также, допустим, еще следующее направление – это биотехнологические исследования. Очень интересный эксперимент. Называется эксперимент релаксация, проводится он с улитками. Заключается в том, что исследуется способность регенерации, то есть способность восстановления различных поврежденных частей объекта.
Another example, a biological technical experiment called relaxatsia. We take snails and we study how they regenerate limbs that have been grown on in space and how that can be done in the future.
Одно из направлений также исследований ведется по исследованию воздействия радиации на тело человека.
One more area, it's the impact of radiation on human's body.
И также есть часть различных направлений, различных экспериментов, которые проводятся во время внекорабельной деятельности.
There is also a number of other experiments that are conducted during spacewalks.
Ну, наверное, можно добавить еще к тому, что у нас есть ряд экспериментов, которые просто, если их целенаправленно объяснить, я их называю наиболее интересные.
I could probably add a few words. For example, I have a group of experiments that I call the most interesting ones.
Это вопросы в этих экспериментах, связанные с мониторингом земной поверхности, просторов Мирового океана, наблюдения за перемещением воздушных масс.
Hereby I mean observing the Earth's surface, watching the ocean, the world ocean, and looking from afar on the air masses.
Также наблюдения за различными космическими эффектами.
Also watching different space occurrences and trivia.
Во время своего выхода в открытый космос у меня будет тоже два интересных эксперимента на поверхности МКС.
When I'll be doing my spacewalk, I also have two interesting experiments on the outer surface of the space station.
Один из них достаточно новый эксперимент, только недавно его начали проводить на борту МКС.
The first one is relatively new. It's a very recent experiment that has just been started on board the ISS.
Называется он «Тест», и смысл его в том, что нам будет необходимо взять образцы такой, скажем, космической пыли или, проще говоря, какой-то космической грязи и принести это на борт с целью следующей доставки на Землю и исследования на Земле с целью обнаружения каких-то микробов и вообще загрязнения станции от космической пыли.
It's called TEST, and the purpose is to take samples on the outer environment of the station, to take space dust, space mud if you want, and so that it can be brought later to the Earth to be analyzed and studied for the presence of microbes and germs that have probably developed on the outer side.
И первые исследования показали, что действительно в открытом космосе живут микроорганизмы. Вот, и, собственно, может быть, часть этой работы ляжет в фундаментальную науку, основу зарождения жизни на Земле.
And the first trials showed, yes, indeed, there are certain basic microorganisms present in the outer space. And if we go on, we'll probably be one step further into discovering what led to the occurrence of life on Earth.
Также достаточно интересный эксперимент «Выносливость». Он, в принципе, не такой сложный, но он очень важный для нашей современной науки.
One more experiment, which is called Выносливость. It's probably not that difficult, but it's still very important for present science.
Смысл эксперимента в том, что на борт МКС выносятся различные виды материалов, конструктивно различные материалы, они по жесткости, по плотности, по составу, по молекулярной основе, и ведется наблюдение за этим материалом, находясь в открытом космосе. Это для того, чтобы впоследствии создавать какие-то элементы будущих космических кораблей или элементы каких-то конструкций для использования для работ в космосе.
This experiment sees a number of different materials with different properties, different stress properties, different composition, different molecular structure, brought to the ISS and observed how those materials evolve and behave with time. And this can be a foundation for the building, for the construction of future space vehicles and construction materials to be used in the future in space.
Ну и вообще говоря про эксперименты, то у нас их порядка 50 будет во время проведения нашей экспедиции. Большая часть из них требует участия оператора, то есть непосредственно выполняется человеком или делаются под контролем космонавта или астронавта. Ну, несколько экспериментов есть, которые требуют только размещения оборудования в определенной последовательности и просто контроля за проведением.
Overall, only our increment will see about 50 experiments alone, and most of them involve the activities of the operator, that is a human, a cosmonaut, or an astronaut who will be working in the practical way with those subjects of experiments, and only very few of them require just the deployment of the experiment per se.
Thank you. That's a good overview. I think we're going to jump back for another social media question, Amika.
Yeah, we do have another one. And Barry, I know you don't want to hog the questions, but this one is specifically for Butch.
Okay.
What has been the biggest challenge in training for this mission versus a shuttle mission?
Oh, wow, that's easy. When I was in high school and college, I never had to learn a foreign language. But when I got assigned to this mission, understanding at least some portion of Russian was a requirement. So the hardest thing that I've done is learning Russian, by far. There's certain challenges involved with learning a new vehicle, all those type of things that you would consider about learning the Soyuz and the Russian segment, things that I hadn't known before. But learning the language is difficult and it's tough, and I'm still learning.
Okay, with that, we're going to turn it over to some questions from some of the students. We have participants from our high school aerospace scholars with us today, so if you'll just raise your hand and state your name, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Alex, a student with the High School Aerospace Scholars Program, and this question is for Captain Butch Wilmore. I'm considering an engineering degree, but not sure which type, so chemical, mechanical, or electrical. So why did you choose electrical engineering?
That's a good question. So how long have you been with High School Aerospace Scholars?
We started the program last December.
So in your junior year. And this is like the 15th year that y'all have, it's kind of the 15th anniversary of the program, right?
Yes, sir.
That's what I hear, and so congratulations to all of you, 15 years, and those that have been working in the program, teachers and whatnot over those years, preparing these young people in science, technology, engineering, math, so congratulations to all of you, and thank you for being here to start off. So why did I choose electrical engineering? You know, electrical engineering was a quite challenging topic. I didn't know a lot about engineering. I knew some engineers when I was younger, and they sort of pointed me into the engineering field, but it was kind of a broad field. And I kind of narrowed it down based on many reasons to electrical engineering and chemistry, or chemical engineering. And my freshman year in college, I took chemistry, and that decided for me that I wasn't going into chemical engineering. So that's why ultimately I chose electrical. It was very challenging, and something I'm glad that I did. I haven't used it a lot in my professional career, but it certainly set a great foundation for life beyond school for me. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and a second student question? All right, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Alondra, and my question is for Captain Wilmore. I was just wondering, how do you plan to cope with any psychological condition of not being on Earth, like during holidays, like for example your birthday or any other?
You say Alona?
Alondra?
Alondra. Okay, thank you, Alondra. You know, I'm very fortunate in that, as you said, I'm a captain in the Navy, and before I was assigned to NASA, I was in the operational Navy, so I went on 4 deployments that were 6 months or longer, and that was a very good preparatory field for what we do now. You go away for long periods of time. Early in my career, you can believe this or not, there was no email or any kind of that kind of stuff. So you went on a ship and you didn't have a lot of ability to communicate with the outside world. And that was a good prep for this. Basically, you know, you compartmentalize. You see your task. You know, I think about, I'm going up there. I have a very unique opportunity to do my part for my country in this very narrow field, if you will. Not many people have the opportunity, and I feel honestly humbled and blessed by the opportunity to do it. So to compartmentalize that and realize I'm going to work for the program, that's my plan, to work for the program and flip that switch and go and do that. And yeah, birthdays will come, but I'm hopeful that I'll have many more birthdays down the road and we'll celebrate those with family, which is what would be our preference, but here we don't have that opportunity. But one thing that NASA does do and does very well is now that we have the ability with technology, my wife has given an iPad, and once a week I can actually do a video conference with them and my daughters, her and my daughters, and so that is a very special thing to be able to do as well. So we'll probably schedule that on birthdays and those type of events as well. You bet.
Okay, we are going to take a couple questions from our phone bridge. We have two reporters on the line. Elizabeth Howell with Space.com.
Hello, this question is for Elena. Can you talk a little bit about the magnitude of being the first woman to be flying in space from Russia for quite some time?
Ну, я буду первой женщиной на МКС от России.
I will be the first female cosmonaut, the first female Russian cosmonaut.
До меня было много женщин на МКС, и я не считаю это чем-то таким очень знаменательным.
There have been quite a few female astronauts before me, and I don't see my flying as such an outstanding event.
Каждый из нас прежде всего собирается выполнять свою работу на станции.
Each of us is first and foremost going to perform his or her primary tasks on board the station.
Поэтому я это событие считаю совершенно нормальным и обыденным.
So I would say that this is a regular and a nominal occurrence, nothing special.
Что можно сказать о космических полетах?
Oh, as far as space flights go, of course.
Okay, and Elizabeth, did you have a follow-up? Okay.
Sorry, you were saying that from your perspective, it's sort of a regular occurrence as far as a spaceflight goes, at least, that for you it's something that's just part of the routine?
Я считаю, что это не совсем обычно. Я считаю, что это тяжелая работа, к которой мы готовимся годами, и мы проходим очень много тренировок, испытаний, и учеба наша является фактически круглосуточной, если можно так сказать. Она требует недосыпания, она требует полной самоотдачи.
I would say that this is a nominal, regular hard work. We spend lots of years preparing for our space flights, so we sleep very little, and we do our utmost, and all our years of training are that foundation on which we build our space flights.
И я хочу сказать, что я не делаю чего-то сверх того, что делают все астронавты и космонавты.
And I wouldn't say I'm performing anything more or doing something which is more understanding than what my colleagues, astronauts and cosmonauts do.
Я всего лишь работаю и хочу хорошо выполнять свою работу.
I'm only going into space. I'm going to be a space engineer, spaceflight engineer, and I want to perform my job really well. And that's it.
Спасибо.
Thank you.
Okay, and next on the phone bridge, I believe we have Elizabeth Wood with the Daily Vegan. Elizabeth, are you with us? Okay. We're going to go ahead and switch back here to Johnson Space Center with the reporters in the room. If you'll, okay, go ahead and state your name and affiliation.
Gerd Daum with the German Space Agency and Space Expo Association. Question for Butch. When you arrive in Baikonur 2 weeks before launch, what kind of preparation do you have to go through until launch?
Yeah, there is some continuation of training. It's not as intense. Of course, there's no exams. The Russians do it very well, though. Sasha, Elena, and I were there for Steve Swanson and his crew's launch as a backup crew. The backup crew's always there, typically 6 months prior. So we were there in March for that. And one of the things the Russians do very well is they prepare their crews for launch, technically, but they also give them this rest period as well. 2 full weeks where they kind of rest, kick back, and spend a little bit of time with family and prepare themselves physically and mentally for the task that is coming. So I look forward to that as well. It's, as you would expect, training for space flight is kind of go, go, go. I mean, there's a lot of things that you need to at least have a basic understanding of, and especially as you get towards the end, there's a lot of reviews, like I said earlier, and because people, you want to be ready, and the program wants you to be ready as well. But those last 2 weeks is primarily rest, getting yourself physically ready to go, and I look forward to that as well, like I said.
And what are you looking for most on your 6 months on the station? Because with you already one shuttle flight, 14 days or so.
Mm-hmm. Like I said earlier, I'm going to work for the program. I'm going to, my nation's goals in space with respect to human spaceflight. That's kind of what I think about. But personal goals, personal thing I'd like to do during the shuttle mission, roughly 2 weeks in length. And shuttle mission, there was a lot to do in a short period of time, and it was go, 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 and very little time to, self-time, if you will, just to stick your face in the window and look outside. I think the longest period I had on the shuttle mission was maybe at most 20 minutes. So I look forward to the opportunity to, the cupola, which is the window on the station, was not there when I was there last. So I look forward to sticking my nose in the window of the cupola for at least 2 revolutions around the Earth, about 3 hours, and just watching the beauty of the Earth go by. I look forward to that.
Okay, switching over. Jim, did you have a question?
Mike, Jim Oberg with NBC. Just to kick off your question, though, but for Sasha. We've heard about the cupola and the view from the cupola on the station, but I understand there's also very good windows on the Russian segment for watching the Earth. Can you describe from your own experience your favorite windows to observe the Earth and just to look out the window? Where are those windows and how big are they?
Хороший вопрос. На самом деле, прошлый свой полет я очень много времени проводил в модуле купола.
It's a good question. Indeed, during my last flight, I spent lots of time in the cupola.
Наверное, это первый модуль, куда меня сразу привели показать, потому что я очень мечтал об этом. Вот обзор на 360 градусов.
I had dreamed about being able to take a look at 360 degrees all around, and this was the first module I was taken in when I came to the station.
Это похоже на то, как будто ты из автомобиля в люк вытащил голову и смотришь, крутишь вокруг, а не в окно.
It feels as if you had a hatch in the roof of your vehicle and you were sticking your head and making it go all around and look all around you.
Относительно российского сегмента у нас есть прекрасный обзорный 9-й иллюминатор, который позволяет за счет своих конструктивных особенностей и молекулярного состава от прозрачной поверхности, давайте назовем ее стекло.
As for the Russian segment, we have a very good window number 9, which allows a perfect view all around, and this is done in part thanks to its molecular structure. Let's call it glass.
Вести очень качественное наблюдение земной поверхности, используя различную аппаратуру специальную.
And this structure, this material, this substance allows for perfect shootage of the Earth's surfaces using different apparatus and devices.
Также очень замечательные есть иллюминаторы в каютах.
The crew quarters, called kayutas in Russian, have very good windows as well.
Это, наверное, как раз то, о чем мечтал Butch.
That's probably what Butch was dreaming about.
Чтобы засыпать и смотреть.
To fall asleep while watching sunrises and sunsets.
Jim, if I could add to that, interesting you asked about the Russian segment windows. The Soyuz patch, our Soyuz patch, is actually looking out of window 9, and it's got, that window has, connection bolts, if you will, around the outside. It has the same number of bolts around the outside as the actual window on the patch, and it's a view looking out of a docking Soyuz right at sunrise, so it's kind of got an orange tint to it like it would look at sunrise. It's a very interesting patch that Sasha and Elena worked to design, and anyway, interesting that it's out of that window 9, like your question.
Once in a while, the last cruise, seeing things like rocket launches, Zapus, by surprise. You're gonna keep your eyes open for unusual things. Unusual things. I hope you are.
Да, разумеется, конечно, ведь самим интересно что-то увидеть новенькое. Естественно, всегда у каждого члена экипажа под рукой есть фотоаппарат для того, чтобы что-то такое необычное заснять. Это может быть даже какое-то и явление на Земле, или что-то красивое в отблесках, лучах солнца, или просто какое-то задание по работе. В общем, за прошлую свою космическую сессию я выполнил, трудно сказать, но, наверное, более 5000 фотографий, которые, в принципе, достаточно качественные.
Absolutely. Crew members are always on the hunt for something unusual, interesting, new phenomena. It can be a task related to the work we're doing, it can be some interesting sunshine, sunbeams, or some reflection or whatnot. I think last time I took over 5,000 pictures, and all of those were of high quality. I mean, I mentioned only those that were of high quality.
Okay, we're going to switch back now to social media. Miko, do you have another question for us?
Simple question, but maybe one that each of you can answer briefly. what are you looking forward to when you get to the ISS?
The cupola, like I said earlier. Like I said, I haven't seen it. I've seen pictures of it. I've seen pictures out of it. And just looking back at the world and the beauty of the world from that vantage point and that big 360-degree view, I think it'll be pretty amazing.
Sasha?
Ну, наверное, все-таки для меня, разумеется, как и для Буча, тоже большой интерес представляет опять вернуть то восприятие, визуальное восприятие Земли.
Of course, just as Butch, I'd like to come back to that visual perception of the Earth beneath.
Как я сказал, что я сделал примерно 5000 фотографий, но какого бы они качества ни были, какая бы совершенная аппаратура ни находилась для проведения фото-видеосъемки, человеческий глаз все равно видит это по-другому, намного-намного красивее.
As I said, no matter the number of photos I took, 5,000 as I mentioned, still no matter how good quality pictures you have, how good your devices, apparatus are, still a human eye takes all those images in a different way than the camera can transmit to you.
Ну и, конечно, естественно, надо будет поработать, потому что большие очень задачи возложены на нашу миссию, в частности, по российской стороне.
Besides, we have lots of things to do, at least as far as the Russian program goes.
Elena?
Ну, для меня по прилету, конечно же, первое ощущение полета хочется испытать.
For me, I would like to understand what this feeling of flight is all about.
И я надеюсь, что Буч пустит меня в куполу посмотреть.
And I do hope that Butch will let me in into the cupola to take a look.
Да, на это потрясающее зрелище. Я думаю, это будет фантастический вид.
I understand the view is amazing, simply fantastic.
И, конечно же, хочется на 100% качественно выполнить всю работу и те задачи, которые на нас возложены.
And certainly I want to do a quality job up there and to perform all the tasks assigned.
I have a follow-up to that real quick. You know, you said the on station, and that's what I thought of. But also, I think we all look forward to, you know, when you see a vehicle launch from Earth, you see it, you watch it, you see the different parts come off, like in the shuttle, you see the solid rocket boosters come off, but you don't think about what's taking place when you're physically in it. At least I hadn't really before I launched in the shuttle. But when those solids came off, I mean, there's an explosion and there's a jarring that happens as the solids leave. And then your ride smooths out a little bit, and then when you get to orbit and you separate from the external tank, there's a bang and there's a big explosion that goes off, and the jarring that takes place. And it's very similar but different in the Soyuz in that as you go through launch, there are some physical sensations that you don't get anywhere else except for launching and leaving the planet. And that's when, you know, we're covered up inside the Soyuz. We can look out the window. You can't see anything because it's covered by a nacelle. And about a minute and a half into the flight or 2 minutes, that nacelle goes away. And I look forward to that explosion and being able to peek out and see if I can see it fall away as it falls. And then, you know, the SAS, it's called. It's the emergency rocket that would pull the orbiter off the stack. I'm sorry, the capsule off the stack if there was a problem. It shoots off, and there's a big jar when that happens. And then staging. You know, stage 1 burns out, and there's a jar, and things are exploding. And that's just a fascinating thing to experience and have the opportunity to experience. And I try to share with you how it feels. It's hard to do in words, but I look forward to that too. That'll be really neat.
We're looking forward to hearing more about it. Okay, we're going to switch back to some questions from the students here. If you'll just raise your hand, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Aaron. This is for Alexander. What type of educational background or skills would you recommend for someone who's pursuing to be a pilot, astronaut, or cosmonaut?
Дело в том, что сейчас понятие полета в космос, она очень многополярна.
Nowadays, the notion of spaceflight is multifaceted.
Современная космическая наука, она предполагает участие специалиста очень широкого профиля.
Modern space science takes into account a range of different abilities and skills.
Конечно, традиционно все начиналось с того, что ближе всех к полетам в космос стояли военные летчики.
Of course, traditional military pilots were the ones most close to the space industry, to the space area.
Но это связано с тем, что не было такого опыта полета человека в космос, воздействия на него, и как бы все-таки летчик-истребитель, он наиболее, так сказать, ближе вот к тем экстремальным условиям, которые изначально закладывались для выполнения полета на околоземную орбиту.
But this was due to the fact that back then there was not enough experience related to space flights. There was not enough knowledge about the impact of space flights, and military jet pilots were the ones most close to what potentially people could experience when in a space flight.
И мне трудно конкретно вам что-то предложить в выборе своей профессии.
So it will be difficult for me to advise you on what career path to choose.
Ну, конечно, наверное, все-таки инженерное образование или образование какого-то медицинского направления достаточно будет развито в ближайшее время.
But I would guess that the engineering path or the medical path will be in high demand in the near future.
Но по мне, как военному летчику, все же ближе пилоты.
But since I'm a military pilot myself, the military pilots stand most close to me.
Okay. All right, we'll go to our next student question. Go ahead.
This is for Captain Wilmore. I'm Connor. Could you please discuss how the cultural diversity comes together on the International Space Station in work and free time?
Yes, that's a good question, Connor. It doesn't vary much from training. They speak some English, I speak some Russian, so Rushlish is kind of what we call it, and we kind of mix it as we go, as we converse, and that's kind of fun, actually. It's kind of neat. And have an opportunity, we've been working together now for 2.5 years almost, and we've come to know each other pretty well. We've met each other's families. And that's an interesting and a very special aspect of this entire evolution as well, to actually mix cultures. The cultures are different, there's no doubt about it. But to be able to learn about their culture and the strengths in their cultures and learn from them, and hopefully they've been able to learn a little bit from us as well. And we take that to the station. You know, the official language, thankfully, on station is English. So, but we also speak a little Russian up there as well. We go, you know, back and forth in the segments, and there'll be a time, I know, that I'll say, Sasha, I need help with this, and he'll come floating down and he'll help me, and he's liable to say, Butch, come here, I need your assistance. And I'll go floating down and help him out as well, because we're a team. We're an international team. And we're even working now within our program to make sure we're not as segmented as we've been in the past, you know, working in the Russian segment and in the U.S. segment, and we're trying to mix together to work together even more, and we're making efforts to make that happen too. So that's a good question. Thanks.
It also seems like meals sometimes are a good shared
Absolutely,
community time.
meals.
Is that
yeah.
something? It seems like some crews always try to have their evening meal together or lunch. Is that something that you guys have already briefed or talked with the on-orbit crew
Yeah,
about?
we plan on having meals together. You know, one of my fondest memories from my 2 weeks on orbit last time was when we get together for meals, and we have even in our a little video that we made when we got back. There's a section where there's all 13 of us around the table, you know, on the ceiling, on the floor, on the sides, everywhere, floating everywhere, and sharing in a meal together. And those, like I said, those are my fondest memories, laughing, having fun, and just enjoying the unique cuisine.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. Okay, another student question? Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jillian, and my question is for Elena. As only the 4th Russian female cosmonaut, do you feel you've inspired young Russian women to study science and engineering?
Say again, please.
It was not heard very well.
As only the 4th Russian female cosmonaut, do you feel you've inspired young Russian women to study science and engineering?
Ну, я очень надеюсь, что я буду одной из тех, кто вдохновляет будущее поколение на работу в космосе, в частности, на работу на Международной космической станции, и тех людей, которые нацелены в будущем связать свою судьбу с космосом.
I hope that my example can inspire those who are thinking about working in space or in the space area in the future and who would like to tie their destiny to space.
И я очень надеюсь, что я буду достойным примером.
And I hope I'll be a role model.
Okay, we'll switch back to journalist questions. Do we have any more media with questions? Go ahead, Robert.
Hi, Rob Perlman with CollectSpace.com with a question for you, Butch, because I think you're the only one on the crew who was alive for it.
Oh no,
45,
thank you.
45 years ago today, Apollo 11 launched for the moon, and I wonder if you can share where you were at that point, how it inspired your career, but also how you see the work being done on the International Space Station is advancing the time when humans will venture beyond Earth again.
Yeah, that's a good question, Rob. I was a small child watching my black and white television, sitting in my, it was kind of between our living room and our kitchen, and I can remember vividly seeing the launch and watching it go. I was not specifically inspired by that launch. I think I was inspired by the entire human spaceflight program. I mean, I can slightly remember Gemini, going back that far. And the guys that came after that first launch, and on all the guys that were involved in that unique time frame, were actually left this planet and went to another heavenly body. That's certainly a unique period. But even I was enamored by Skylab and Apollo Soyuz and the early years of the space shuttle and all of that. So I was kind of enamored by all of those people, men and women that were involved in those. Didn't know all of their names, but it was more the position and the opportunity that they had to, or they were involved in, that they were furthering our understanding of things that, just decades earlier we didn't even know existed. And that is, I think, the legacy as we continue with the International Space Station. We're involved in some things now as we move forward, and we'll be involved in some science that looks back to things that we didn't know existed before the space station era started. And something with the genome and bacteria and other cells, and some combustion that takes place at much lower temperatures than we knew that could happen, and those type of things that we will continue to, plot dots on a curve, basically, just like you do here on Earth, to see and get an understanding of how do some of these things work and how they can be of benefit to us. So it's been a building block approach from day one, and the space station is continuing in a magnificent way to build those understandings that, again, we roll back in. I mean, there's books been made every year about spinoffs from NASA technology and things we've done specifically with International Space Station. And to play a part in that, no matter how big or how small, is like I said, for all of us, it's a true honor, and we don't take it lightly. That's why we study hard, that's why we train hard, and that's why we want to make sure that when we get there, we're ready to do what the program and our nations want us to do.
Okay. All right. Any last questions on this side? Okay. I'm going to go back to students. If you can state your name.
Hi, I'm Emilio. This is for Captain Wilmore. Did your first experience in space aboard the Space Shuttle 129 mission change any views in your life? And if so, what ideas did it bring back to improve your way of life?
Changing the ideas in my life. I don't know that I would say it changed any ideas, the way I looked at life, the way I approached life. I didn't need a spaceflight mission to make me see the need, for being concerned about others. My parents instilled that in me when I was young. My friends instilled that in me when I was young. My wife helps me stay on a course that keeps me focused on a purpose for being in a position to help others when the opportunity presents itself. So in that respect, it didn't change anything. But I can tell you, seeing the Earth from that perspective and seeing I can't even explain the brilliant colors of a sunrise and sunset. You've seen pictures of it, I know. You've seen videos of it, I know. But what you see with your eyes can really give you a certain perspective on, wow, this is a truly amazing place that we live, and truly amazing opportunities that with a little bit of effort can be afforded to many, hopefully one day, to go up and see and experience that. And I think that's, if there's anything that changes me, and I don't know that, like I said, I don't know that it changes me, but it gives me a desire to do my part, what little part it may be, so that many can go and experience those things that just a few of us have had the opportunity, relatively speaking, to do and see.
Okay, I think we have time for another question at least.
Hello, my name is Hunter, and my question is for Alexander. In dealing with cultural diversity, what training have you taken to improve international communication and understanding?
Наверное, Буч немножко уже ответил на этот вопрос.
I think Butch has already partially responded to this question.
Но на самом деле, по предыдущему опыту, я скажу, что у нас было очень такое живое перемешивание культур. Я выполнял полет практически одновременно с представителями разных культур. С нами были европейцы, с нами были россияне, с нами были японцы и, конечно, американцы.
But just taking in my experience from my previous flight, we had indeed a mix of cultures. We had a presence of a European on board, Russians, Japanese, and Americans, of course.
Все-таки нас объединяет одно, то, что мы являемся единой командой.
And indeed, we are all united by the same spirit of one and the same team.
И как выполнение задачи совместной, так и обеспечение безопасности МКС, это лежит в нашем совместном, так сказать, положении и совместном понимании дел.
And for the mission to be performed properly and for the safety of all of us, this means that we need to have a joint and common understanding of everything.
Потом, мы же не просто встречаемся на станции и знакомимся. У нас идут долгие годы подготовки в таких вот экипажах еще на Земле, и мы достаточно хорошо друг друга изучили еще до полета.
Besides, it's not that we see each other through our time when on the space station. Before the flight, we spent years training together and getting to know each other as part of one and the same crew.
И потом, конечно, очень важным элементом для выполнения качественного полета является уважение, как вы сказали, и культур, и разниц между этими культурами.
Moreover, what is important for the success of any mission is respect and understanding of the cultural differences and respect for those differences and cultural interaction.
Спасибо.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question. Last student over there.
Hi, my name is Karina. My question's for Captain Wilmore. When you first came to work for NASA, were there any advantages from serving your country as a U.S. Navy pilot?
Karina, is that what you said?
Yes,
Yes,
Karina.
that's a good question. Certainly. The Navy helped lay the foundation, like I said earlier, for compartmentalization. When you jump in an airplane and you're launching off the front end of an aircraft carrier, you need to be focused on what your job is. And there's other issues of life that are going on at the same time, and you really got to compartmentalize and put those things kind of aside because of the task at hand. And that's just one example of many things that the Navy provided for me preparatory to come into this position of working with NASA in this role. And I would encourage every one of y'all to go join the Navy and do your part for your country and serve your country in just a great and fascinating way. The Navy's been great to me, and I'm grateful that for the opportunity that my country gave me to serve in that capacity.
Great. All right. Well, I think these students are well on their way to doing a great job. So thank you all for joining us, the students, the journalists, those of us, those folks watching on TV and via social media, and thank you especially to the crew. For more information on their mission, visit www.nasa.gov/station. Thank you.